As we continue our journey this year, 2026, as I build up my kit for the 250th birthday of the United States of America, trying to consider everything that a soldier would have had, at least a colonial soldier would have had, in 1776. Now I'm starting in 1776 because my grandfather fought with the Dover Light Infantry and he was there and present at the crossing of the Delaware. So that's like the big event that my son and I are trying to get ready for. So I'm taking all my previous experience from, Civil War reenacting and early 20th century living history reenacting, or whatever you want to call it, and even my experience as an adult and as a scout and everything else like that, and I'm applying it all together. And I'm coming upon a stumbling block when it comes to what colonial soldiers had access to. Now, the realization of it is, the older in history we go, the fewer sources we have to know what the average person had available to them, right? Now, take this for example, this right here. Now, this is an air mattress. This is from like the 1920s, 1930s, and it is an Abercrombie and Fitch air mattress, right? This thing weighs a ton. It would have been used for car camping. Abercrombie and Fitch catered to the wealthy. You are the upper middle class, right? So the average person would not have had something like that. Your middle and upper middle class would have invested in an air mattress if they did car camping. But your average person who went camping every once in a while, maybe scouting or something like that, even in the early 20th century, wouldn't have had an air mattress. They would have just taken blankets or, as we get into it, an older technique to stay warm, okay? So now I'm going to take you through the journey. I'm actually going to start with the newer and go backwards with this idea, all right? And I'm breaking it up into two parts. First of all, you have your traditional camping, like in a tent on the ground, something like that. And then over here, I have hammocks. Okay, now, this hammock was gifted to me by Jerry Lee over at What Price Glory at Squirrel Camp. And this is a naval hammock. I haven't even used it yet. Okay, so this is going to be a future video in the spring, and we're going to talk about hammocks in the early 20th century to Sarge Vining's or Kent Vining's chagrin, and we're going to open up that can of worms, and we're going to discuss it very deliberately. But hammocks, whether it be old hammocks or new hammocks, when we're talking about insulative value and sleeping on it and getting a comfortable sleep, we have to take in consideration the temperature, right? Especially in the cold. Now in the summer, hammock camping is awesome because you're above ground, you get the nice breeze going back and forth, swinging you by, like it's beautiful. Hammock camping in the summer is awesome. In the winter though, it creates a big set of problems because first of all, it does lift you up above the ground, so you don't have the ground that is literally sapping the heat from your body, right? So now your body is working overtime and they're shivering and everything because the ground is literally absorbing the heat through whatever you got and taking it down to the ground. But we have air, an air that is between the ground and the hammock, and it can go back and forth. So now you have what's called the cold butt syndrome, CBS, right? Now, old hammocks, something like this, let's be real, they weren't really used in a camping scenario, especially in the 1700s. This would have been a sailor's hammock. If you were in the Navy, you would have used a hammock. But other than that, no, this is not something that you would have seen in the backyard or what have you, most likely, okay? But if we're talking about modern hammocks, whether it's a regular cloth scrunched in hammock, or if we're talking about something like a suspension hammock, like the Haven. I love my Haven tent, right? But we have to solve those issues. Now what Haven does is it has an insulated air mattress, okay? Now when you're talking about insulation in an air mattress, they're going to use what's called an R value. The higher the R value, the more insulative it is. Generally speaking, since most people don't go camping in the winter, most of your air mattresses and things that you buy for outdoor is 2 to 3 season, not a 4 season use. So Haven has this, which is good for 3 seasons, and even without this next part, I can comfortably sleep in it with the right sleeping bag. Okay, now this is rather heavy. This is not ultralight. Okay, this setup is not an ultralight kit. Okay, but it's a very comfortable kit. And you have fill, you have down that's actually inside the mattress itself that helps retain the heat and keep the air from getting your body and sapping it out. Okay. Now Haven also sells what's called, it's just a cover, right? Now, again, it has more down fill. It's not Muscovy or duck down, it's a modern fill. But it has a down in it that brings this setup up to about an 8R. An 8R is a really good heat retention rating when we're talking about winter sleeping and when we're talking about survival and things like that and comfort. So these two together work really well, okay? That's for a hammock. Now, if you don't have a suspension type hammock, well, now you have to have an underquilt. Now, the underquilt, again, is going to be like the air mattress that I have and like the cover that I have. It's going to try to trap heat from seeping out of your bottom of your hammock and the ground. So, you know, it's a nice little burrito. And you don't lay on it. It actually wraps underneath your hammock itself. So as you're swinging along and everything, you're not scrunching that down, which last week, as we continue the series, we talked about that, how air needs to be trapped for that insulated value. So if you're winter camping, you need to take all those things into consideration. Now, if you sit on a downfilled, air mattress, if you sit on a downfilled sleeping bag, you're compressing all that down, which is minimizing the amount of insulated value that it has. All right, so that is with hammocks. Now, as we talk about traditional camping, well, same thing. You got this sleeping pad here. So the third thing that you need to consider about your sleeping system is, especially during the winter months, is the barrier between your body and the ground, whether it be a hammock setup or a ground setup. Most people are going to stick with the ground setup, especially early on in your camping career. So if you are thinking about hammock camping, check out the Haven. I am an affiliate. It's in the description box below, but by all means, shop around. I love it. I adore the system. But if you are set with doing it on the ground or maybe on a cot will do the same thing, but you still now have that air that flows in between the ground and the bottom of your cot. So you have to take that into consideration. All right, so to that end, we have just a plain old air mattress. Now this is a C2 Summit. Let's see, which one is this? This is a C2 Summit Comfort Light Insulated. This is from 10, 12 years ago. I don't remember, but I've had this for a long time. And this is the extra large full length model. Now this has an R rating, if I remember right, about a 3.7 R rating. So this is like a 3-season air mattress. This is not a 4-season. We would have to do things to help make up those other points to have a comfortable sleep, but this is certainly better than just sleeping on the ground or having nothing at all. Okay, now for some reason, and if you're an ultralight backpacker, they make half size. I can't imagine why anybody would want to sleep on a half air mattress. If you're that person, you do you. No judgment. It's not my place to judge, but that just blows my mind in regards to getting a good night's sleep, especially just to save some ounces. So get yourself an air mattress. Most of you are not going to sleep in the winter, so going to Walmart or something like that, or Amazon, buying yourself an air mattress for summer use is going to give you a much better, more comfortable night of sleep. And as the old timers say, we go out to the woods to smooth it, not to make it harder or anything like that. But as we go back in time, especially like the 1920s, 1930s, they did have air mattresses. They even had air mattresses during the American Civil War. Boy, were they a premium expense. And they really didn't change much in regards to the innovation and materials used or whatever from the American Civil War to the 1920s and 1930s. It was still a rubberized, and it was heated up and sealed to seal the seams and things like that. Most air mattresses from the 1920s and 30s, they leak at this point because the rubber in itself breaks down and degrades, especially towards the nozzle, which is what's happened to this one. I tried to repair this one, and it just still leaks, all right? But this thing weighs a ton. This is more for car camping. This is not going to be practical throwing it on your back and hiking 10 miles a day. this is just too much, okay? So the other option is doing something like this, or even taking this step and minimizing a little bit more. So this comes from the 1930s as well. This is a bed tick. Now, inside this bed tick, it has some, shoddy wool bedding. One side is for winter, for that insulated value, and the other side is just straight cotton, right? Now, this one was specifically designed to be used with an air mattress. However, even before air mattresses became common, people still took with them bed ticks. It's just a sack, the length and width of your body, and you stuff it full of browse, and now you have yourself a bed. Now, bushcrafters for years now have been using oversized trash bag liners for the same purpose. It's ultra light, very durable. You throw a bunch of leaves or whatever browse you can, try to leave out the sticks and the rocks, and you've got yourself a bed tick. So we don't need to overthink it, and we also don't have to spend a lot of money. When I talk to people about early 20th century camping or any other reenacting, they're just surprised because I see all the stuff that I've collected and other people collected over time, and they're like, whoa, that's overwhelming, that's a lot of money. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get involved in early 20th century camping or camping in general. An oversized trash bag liner. You fill it full of leaves, especially in the fall, as you got those fresh leaves. They're all dried up. They're not wet and degraded and things like that. Those are incredibly comfortable bed ticks. Incredibly comfortable. And during the spring, well, you're going to have to dig a little bit harder to try to find that browse, but it could still be done. You want the dry leaves, not the wet leaves, because wet leaves are compressed and a whole bunch of other things. You got to deal with bugs and all this stuff. So dry leaves is certainly the way to go. Now, we're going to the time period that I am working on, and even my Civil War experience. What did the soldiers have available to them to make their lives more comfortable, but also healthier? We have to take health into consideration. Sure, we use these because they're comfortable when we get a better night's sleep. But there's health involved as well. Even waking up with some pains and aches on your hips and the high spots, if you will, that's a health situation. And if you're an older person, you have to take these things into consideration even more as you try to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom or what have you. Okay, so having some type of reliable in your mind, a system that you take with you or a system that you make along the way is important. So the colonial soldiers, they weren't issued air mattresses and they weren't issued bed ticks. Now, in the winter times, generally speaking, even like in the Civil War, it was tradition that military movements would be decreased. In fact, that's the months where people were sent on leave to go back home and recuperate or what have you, and they would just have rotational leave. And if you're a colonial soldier, that's probably what would happen. If not, you would have what's called winter quarters. Now, winter quarters is where you would build small cabin-like structures, and you would build cots and beds that are pretty temporary, pretty basic, and then you would fill those beds with things like straw. Straw was issued out to soldiers, and it was utilized quite a bit throughout the war, throughout the 18th and 19th century, as a way of trying to create comfort, but also a sanitary and health situation. I remember in the late 90s when I first got into Civil War reenacting, it was very commonplace when you go to a reenactment, whether it be a summer, spring, or fall reenactment, that they would issue you straw. You get a ticket and you'd go and you get a bale or a half bale of straw. And I tell you what, folks, if you have not slept on a bale of straw, it is so daggone comfortable. It even beats this to a larger extent. Okay, you can fluff it up and you can put it in how you want to do it, and it's just really nice. So that's what soldiers would do if they had it available. Now, if they didn't have it available, then they're sleeping on the ground. But when they're sleeping on the ground, there's other things they can do to try to make it a little bit more comfortable so they're dealing with the warmth, such as having fires around. You'd have soldiers sleeping around the fires. But that would have been for temporary camps. When we're talking about permanent camps, like I said, they would have had built structures for any amount of time that they would stay during winter quarters. All right? Now, if you like this video, please click like because it helps other people find it and it helps this channel. We truly appreciate it. If you have not already done so and you're thinking about building your early 20th century kit, or you're just looking for something to make your backpacking, your day hiking, or your camping experience better, especially if you like cooking, then I suggest that you check out the Preston Mess Kit. Now, the Preston Mess Kit comes with your canteen. It's a 54-ounce canteen. Comes with your cup or pot. The handle folds in on itself. It's a storeway underneath the canteen, like so. And then you have your skillet, you have your plate. They come together to form a container or a baker, and they fold out so you can use it as such. So it's $175. These are going to show up really soon, coming up at the end of May. And this might be the only run that we do of the Preston Mess Kit. So if you've been on the fence and you're still thinking about getting one, then go ahead and do it. I'm actually talking with Sarge Vian right now over at Bannerman's, and he's considering making the covers for these. They will not be included, so it'd be an extra expense, but he's looking at designing it and trying to figure out all the work that's involved. So we're trying to figure out the details on that. More details to come later. So $175 shipped to your door if you live in the continental United States. And if you live outside the continental United States, I will give you $15 shipping credit to wherever it is that you live. Now, this whole series that we started at the beginning of this year as we go forward, you know, representing the 250th birthday of my country's birth, you know, we're doing a challenge on the Camp Crafters Guild. Every single week, every week this year, we've got a new challenge. So by the end of the year, whatever your goal is, maybe it's bushcrafting, maybe it's early 20th century camping, maybe it's modern camping, maybe it's backpacking or whatever it is. You know, you set your goal, but there are certain things that are just universal. But every week, we're doing a challenge so by the end of the year, you have yourself an outfitted kit, okay? Now, you can join for free. There's a paid side of it, but you can join for free at www.honorableoutfitters.com/join the guild. We'd love to have you on, and we'd love to share and see what you have to offer back and forth. It's a great group of people. You know, nothing else. Check it out. You can always back out of it if you don't like it, not getting use out of it. All right, now, if you'd like to see the video about the Preston Mess Kit and its use, you know, and all that it can do, then check it out over here. If you would like to see a playlist ongoing of all camp crafting gear, get yourself some ideas, and check it out here. Hope you guys have a wonderful week. Give a kiss and hug to your loved ones, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.